Corey Webster. This is my final project for INLS 697. Today I'll be talking about woot.com and the community behind it. So, what is Woot? Woot is a lifestyle. Woot is a vision. Woot is a pungent aroma that never apologizes for what it is. Woot is the hope in the eyes of a child when that child realizes that you don't have to pay list price for cool stuff. Basically, what Woot's administrators are explaining here is that Woot is an ever changing, ever evolving website that showcases special deals on a variety of products purchased wholesale or refurbished and then sold directly to their online customers. Woot began as a single primary www.woot.com page and now has grown into several sub Woots of wine, tech, home, sport, and deals. Each of these pages gets updated at midnight, and the products are only sold until they are sold out. With such dynamic content, it is necessary that Woot provide an engaging, interactive website. These are some examples of the sub-Woots, starting with the main page, shirt.woot. This is the top 20 of the shirt website. And then one of the more recent ones, tech.woot. So today the site has grown not only from the addition of its subpages, but also in the quality of the website and its coding behind it. One of the major themes since the creation of the website has been its sardonic sense of humor. As you can see, basically with each product there's a write-up that accompanies everything. Today's Woot write-up is there's going to be a showdown between you and your crotchety neighbors. Basically, they're selling a sound bar, but they go a step further to add a little point in there. They write poignant, personalized descriptions for each device and item, and it's the commentary by these administrators as well as other members in the community that keep people returning for tomorrow's Woot. An example of the community, here's another interactive part of the web page. They show a scroll bar that gives different comments, the things that other people have said about a product, so that when you buy something, you're not just taking their word for it, you're also getting some community opinion. The more classical customers, they also include a features page for if you're just looking to make a quick purchase and you want to know about the product. That way you can learn the size of the speakers, the amperage, things like that, the rote necessary business information. Employing Google Analytics, the site also provides some additional features telling you how many people bought a specific product, how many of the product they bought, the first person to buy one, the speed at which they bought it, things that might seem kind of arbitrary to other people, but this finely calculated information also is a means of persuading wary purchasers. Basically, the theory there is that no one wants to be the only person buying something, but they might be interested in being the first or the only one from their state or the most senior wooter to buy one. Again, they also show some examples of graphs, sales per hour, and a heat map of the United States with the most wooters wooting at the time. The top comments incorporate the opinions and concerns of regular wooters. Basically, the site uses this for customers to feel more comfortable buying things based on customer reviews rather than just their own information. Speaking to the customer experience, they also allow for member pages that help for trust building. Basically, using this, they can see exactly how many times a person has bought a Woot item, how many comments they've made. Quality is assessed by the Woot administrators, and then quality posts are recorded for each individual member. Also, you can tell certain information about them, how again how many products they've bought, how many posts they've made, and when they joined Woot, as well as their rep, their quality of posts per 100 posts. Where does this matter? Say, for instance, you're thinking of buying a particular shirt, like this wishful thinking shirt. You like the theme of it, and you want to see who made it. In this case, Pixel Pants. You can click on their username, and by clicking on it, you can see all the shirts related to them and browse through their themes and styles. See if there's anything similar that you might like, or if you really don't like it because of the themes that they have. In addition, you can also see if someone posts several community source deals, things that they found on the internet that they thought were interesting, and you can either share that opinion and browse through all of their different source deals, or you can look and see just how many posts they've made and the quality of posts as indicated on the left of your screen, starting with the 39, which is user upvotes. But you don't have to take my word for it. Let's see what some of the scholars have to say about this type of community. From counterculture to cyberculture, we read that science fiction is one of the most underrated influences on our culture and science itself. This is something that is a recurrent theme on the Woot community because of the fact that there is a certain educational barrier, whether it's cultural or through written education. Customers create content and value that they can then sell and then make a profit off of just because of their shared experiences, cultural and otherwise. Nancy Baim is one of the biggest speakers on cultural online communities. She says, "We are a group who watch and do things together. We share experiences, understandings, history, and knowledge, and as such become a community with exclusions, inside jokes, and camaraderie." In her opinion, technologies don't determine rational outcomes, but they become important parts of how these relationships are made. Bain believes in the quality of human connection through social media, which is something that communities like woot.com are abundant in. They allow millions and millions of people to connect to one another, to share, again, those experiences, the things that they've encountered, and then communicate them in a useful way. Moving on, Barry Wellman offers his law of media conservation, the golden rule. Email me, I email you back. Phone me, I'll phone you back. Basically saying if you want someone to help you with something, you have to help them, and whatever form your help takes, theirs will likely correspond. This applies to upvotes as with wooters, as with t-shirts, as I've noticed that a lot of times similar people that continually post t-shirts, that continually post community source deals that are popular and range around a certain theme, often get some of the same people voting for them and then in turn vote for those people. He goes on to say the world is composed of more consumers than producers of information. Basically, for every one poster, anyone who posts, there are thousands more lurkers. I am one of the lurkers, for instance, because not everyone has access to the content and not everyone has the creativity to create new products and new posts online, but everyone, the millions of people can all contribute in a valuable way, saying what they do and don't like, and thereby increasing the value of the website itself. Going on to the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon discussion. Or rather, this links directly to the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon discussion, where we realize that hubs exist. There are only basically a few websites that have thousands of links, but most have a few. Most of the wooters have only a few things that they've bought, but there are several that have hundreds and thousands of things that they've bought. The same goes for posts. Several have hundreds and thousands of links and comments that they've made, but most just have a few. Duncan Watts describes his halo effect, saying that uh, companies that do well are thought to have better management, better strategies, better processes, but often the opposite is true. This took place for Woot because basically they took a theme, a principle that was already in use, the deal a day type marketing strategy, and then came up with a way to make their site special. Using their sense of humor, they gave the customers something else that they want. For instance, the woot offs, where they sell uh, rather than the same way that they usually do, just selling one product a day. A woot off, they'll clear their inventory by selling anything that they still have, anything that didn't sell out, and then as soon as that sells out, they'll move on to the next product. This encourages rapid fire impulse buying and keeps their customers entertained. The same goes for the proverbial bag of crap, quote unquote, which is something that's very popular on their site. You pay $6, and anything that they have in their inventory, any collection of products, may be sent to you. Shirts, including and ranging up to flat screen televisions that some people have received before. Now, looking at their success currently, it makes the vision seem that they just had a brilliant strategy and it was perfect from the beginning, but in reality, it was a combination of luck and an innovative theme that, if it hadn't worked, they would have looked like idiots. Another thing that Duncan Watts talks about is racial marketing, using ethnocentric commercials marketed to perceived audiences. That perceived audience is something that Woot plays highly upon. They use what I would call community marketing, selling new things to the same audience, knowing what they like to hear. But who is their perceived audience? Their perceived audience, I like to think, would probably be something like the father from Modern Family. It's an easily amused, young to middle age male, upper middle class person with disposable income who is who has an abundance of free time, who likes gadgets, always turned on, always plugged into their devices, who's tech savvy and was alive in the 80s to get most of the humor. They're cultured, they're probably gamers, they're impulsive, and they have disposable income because most of the things that you'll find at a woot.com site are not going to be things that you need to keep your roof above your head. It's just little amenities, things that can save you some time, or things that you might have been interested in that you saw on TV that would just be interesting to have. Barabasi, in his article about bursts, says if you know a human's past positions with a 93% probability, you can predict their future positions. Again, this obviously relates to what Duncan Watts was saying with his perceived audience. Once you know who that audience is, you can predict what they're going to buy based on their past purchase history, based on what similar people in a similar area or who have been on the site for a similar amount of time are going to buy. Dana Boyd was the main proponent of privacy versus security. Basically, one of her statements was that when people feel that they have trust in a system and how that system is architected, they are more comfortable negotiating their privacy there. Encoding is the most prominent way that young people achieve privacy in a very social environment. What this means is that having they can have material that is publicly accessible but for which the meaning is not. How this relates to woot is, again, with that perceived audience, there are certain jokes that if you're not part of that perceived audience, if you're an outsider or you're just an other to that audience, you might not understand or get the jokes. But because of the fact that there is a community that does understand, that does get those jokes, there is a sense of unity and solidarity among them. I can count on my hands the number of times I've seen people out with different shirts from Woot that I recognize, but and we always share a certain amount of like, hey, that's a Woot shirt, and then we're like, yes, we both connect on that same community. Kirby Ferguson in Everything is a Remix speaks to loss aversion. Ferguson argues that we can't produce anything new until we are fluent in the language of our domain. Again, I'll use the example of shirt.woot. Many of these shirts tell the same stories, reimagine complex equations, or change perspective on nostalgic themes. Designs get traded, mixed, matched, and transformed, and then are reproduced and sold, commodified to their new audience. The book I read for my report, Cory Doctorow and Charles Strauss, Rapture of the Nerds, there were a lot of good points that relate to this type of community. For instance, there's always someone who, in their opinion, unaccountably carries the let's lick the frozen fence post gene. There's always this geek who will do it because it's a historical, technical imperative. Basically, what they are saying here is that technology is a self-hating field. Every invention looks to make the last invention obsolete. When we get the phonograph, we're already thinking about television. Once we get TV, we need it in HD, and then, of course, we have to have it in 3D. Dr. Owen Strauss know that that pole has to be licked, and Woot keeps the pole licker supplied with a captive audience. The people who have to invent this product, even when it's something unnecessary, even when it's something that's niche, there are people online in communities like Woot that will always be readily available to purchase them. The novel also has a tendency to make pun and frequent jokes to this educated sci fi Trekkie audience, which you may recognize as highly the model for the perceived audience with the Wu community. In Hud, the main character, in his execution by religious zealots in South Carolina, they utilize the most vicious of post apocalyptic nuclear fallout creatures. Ants, they're everywhere, and if they could speak, their message would be, you will be assimilated. Obviously, this is a pun, an allusion to Star Trek, and everyone in Star who is a part of that Trek community will recognize this pun. So again, they're just acting upon that they know who their audience is, and they know that they'll get these jokes because if they weren't a part of that audience, it would go right over their head. The primary argument of the novel reveals the author's collective disappointment in the underutilization of the limitless resource that is the internet. Her primary beef against the singularity has never been existential, it's aesthetic. The power to be a being of pure thought, the unlimited, unconstrained world of imagination, and we build a world of animated gifs, stupid sight gags, and brain dead flame wars, augmented by animated emoticons. Basically, directly to the argument basically that Shirky and Carr had. One saying that Shirky that the internet would produce a cognitive surplus where things would be better, technology would basically fix most of the problems of human life, and Carr saying that having this resource makes us dumber, like having a calculator prevents the ability to otherwise process mathematical equations. Um, so while this argument does have merit, I also think that there is value in the things that we do even in our free time, the things that aren't necessarily for the benefit of society, but have some intrinsic value to the user, to the customer, to the member of this online community that finds such camaraderie with other people. Gamification is something that I think needs to be studied further because I think everyone has somewhat a need for achievement. Everyone wants to know that the things that they say are agreed with by others. This is why Facebook likes and YouTube thumbs up are things that people look for, people strive for. We want as many views as possible. We want as many viewers to our website. We want as many comments as we can get on a particular post, even if it means saying something controversial. So I think that the internet has unlimited potential. The cloud, the idea that we can upload everything, that we can create an environment, we can create an encyclopedia that is ever changing, that adds millions of new pages every single minute. This is the potential of the internet. This is something that the internet will always have because I don't think anyone will ever narrow down specifically what the internet can do, what social networking can do, and what these online communities can do. So, whether or not they have some real world changing value will be left up to the users, but I personally think that even if it is just trollery and sight gags, it still has some value to the users, to the people that find such community in these social networks. So, thank you for listening, and that has been my presentation on the woot.com community.